What if Ned Stark was willing to play the Game of Thrones? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
Do you see that boy there? One of Varys' little birds. Now look, there. That one belongs to the Queen. And do you see that scepter?
Larissa the Queen.
No, she's one of mine. Is there someone in your service whom you trust completely?
Yes.
The wiser answer was no, my lord.
Littlefinger smiles and pats Ned on the cheek before departing, whistling a happy tune. All while Ned stares in shock. He glances around the courtyard one final time, for once seeing the eyes upon him, all watching but never moving. He had been so eager, focused on finding the truth, that he was a chicken in a snake's den, clucking and clucking as they slithered around him. Suddenly, he is no longer comfortable being there and hurries off. He quickly makes his way back towards his keep to contemplate everything that he has learned. Even hours later, he still struggles to make sense of everything happening. He knew that politics were cutthroat, but that perhaps his honor and ability might be enough. It was why Robert had brought him here, to have a man of honesty. Now he sees how mistaken his friend was, and how foolish he was for thinking that. He thinks of Jon Arryn, and wonders if this is how he had felt when he served his hand. Then he thinks of what else Littlefinger told him.
In this city, power is not a sword. It's information.
Ned realizes the game is being played with or without him, and he's losing. He came to King's Landing with a sword and a name, but he will need more. The Hand does not leave his chamber for the rest of the night. Instead, he remains there, planning and considering his next move. When at last he emerges the next morning in order to attend another meeting, he has come up with a strategy. The game has begun, and he has fallen behind, and he must still learn the ropes. That is why he must gather allies. The first person to come to mind is Littlefinger. He seems eager enough and more knowledgeable about the court than anyone in Ned's court, but that is also why he dismisses him. He has all the information and seems a bit too eager to share it as well as to ask Ned about his research. More importantly, he lacks any principles. Ned must play the game, but he will not work with just anyone. Besides Lord Baelish, there are two other people he considers. Sir Barristan. He is respected, admired in court, serves in the small council, and is always close with the king. And Renly. While he might have his disagreements with the youngest Baratheon, he is certain of one thing. They both want the Baratheon rule to continue, and that means he can rely on him. Up until a certain point. Before he heads to the small council chambers, Ned first visits Sir Barristan in the White Tower, where he finds the knight dressing himself in his armor.
Do you require some assistance there, sir?
Lord Stark, I was donning my armor since your mother was first swaddling you, but these old bones appreciate the assistance.
Ned chuckles and moves to begin strapping the knight's breastplate.
You've been protecting the king for 15 years now, sir. I must commend you on your efforts. Robert still hasn't managed to drink himself to death.
To his great dismay, it would seem. But he gets closer, I shall admit.
And yet, part of me feels it's not only his doing, and that someone is pushing him.
What makes you say that? Have you heard something being planned?
No, nothing like that. Perhaps I am simply being paranoid, given the recent incident regarding Jon Arryn and my son. But I came to ask for your help. I would sleep much better knowing that someone is keeping an eye on the king.
I am always watching the king.
Indeed. But if you were to catch a hint of something, no matter how small, do not hesitate to tell me. Or if you have suspicions about anyone in court.
I have suspicions about half the court, my lord. If I were to tell you, we would be here all day.
I would like to hear them. You have been here longer than I. Your knowledge would be most beneficial.
Very well, Lord Hand. You have my word that I shall keep my eyes open.
And just like that, Ned gains his first ally, but he soon approaches Renly after the meeting, helping him clean up the table.
Lord Renly, I noticed the king has found himself some squires, fair-haired ones. Indeed, cousins of the queen. She insists they must be given opportunities to advance. 7 knows how many more of them she might have in Castle Rock. A damnably large family. The guards, too, judging by the style of their armor, and the servants by the gold thread in their clothing. It seems she has been diligent in filling up the Red Keep with her household. And yet, I don't see any of your cousins. Where is Sir Andrew and his family? Surely Lord Estermont would be delighted to see a few of his kin serving in court. Even your brother Stannis has made himself scarce. I ask myself that every day, Lord Stark. It seems like the Lannisters have an allergy to turtles. And stags, judging by the way Cersei looks at her dear husband. But why is it you ask? It was just something I had noticed since my arrival here. It was some time since I've been to court, and the last time I was here, it was full of Robert's bannermen. Perhaps I am simply being paranoid. Perhaps you are. But it is nice to discuss these issues with me, and perhaps we can find ways to address it. Indeed. And ensure that the crown stays with the Baratheons, not the Lannisters.
Renly gives him a conspiratorial smile, and Ned tries his best to mimic it. Though they do not say it outright, the two come to an understanding. It is in both of their interests to keep the Baratheons in power. With these two alliances, Ned now begins searching for ways to challenge Lannister rule. Renly and Ser Barristan both give him names of those they deem potential allies. The likes of Loras Tyrell, Balon Swan, Aerys Oakhart, and the Redwyne twins as those they can safely count on their side. There are others whom they are less certain about. Pycelle and Littlefinger both seem helpful, but they all agree they cannot be fully trusted. The same is true for Sir Mandon Moore, and others like the rest of the Kingsguard. Varys and much of the household cannot be trusted. Ned works to rectify that. He asks Renly to help shore up support and gather allies. He is charming and well-liked by commoners and nobles alike, so he tries to win over the Crownlanders. Meanwhile, Ser Barristan uses his position as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard to limit Cersei's reach. The less trustworthy Kingsguard are kept in less important positions, or to guard the royal children, keeping them distant from Robert and Ned's allies, so they are less able to spy on them. As the Hands tournament comes in, Ned appoints a group of his men to assist the Goldcloaks in maintaining the peace. While they do just that, he also tasks them to keep their eyes open for any suspicious activity, as well as to reach out to the officers in the City Watch and try to win them over. Meanwhile, Ned continues to serve his hand, reviewing the notes that Jon Arryn had left behind. These include his investigation, but also issues he's had with other individuals like Janos Slynt, Sir Preston Greenfield, and other members of the court, which could be valuable as blackmail. At the same time, Renly introduces him to potential allies, having him sit and ride with them so they can win them over. Soon, Ned focuses his attention on Pycelle and tries to determine whether he is truly a reliable ally or not. During one summer day, he brings forth a rumor he's heard. How one of the guards on the Red Keep's battlements has spotted the knight riding out in the dead of night, supposedly to visit a paramour in the city. Ned expresses his concern at this violation of his vows and suggests that the knight be watched and stripped of his white cloak if found to be true. Of course, he emphasizes need for secrecy here, which Pycelle agrees with.
But of course, Lord Stark, I must advise caution. The duties of governance are as delicate as they are weighty. Such matters can create tension in the court between you and the knight. I appreciate your counsel, Maester. One does wonder, though. Have you heard anything of Sir Preston Greenfield lately? No, I have not. A scandal, if real, but I would urge restraint. Rumors in King's Landing are like wildfire, easily sparked, hard to contain.
And yet, the knight Ser Barristan calls his sworn brother often slips out of the Red Keep at night. Though he pretends to sleep, Barristan hears him leave. The guards that Pycelle posted on the battlements all watch him go, then later claim they saw nothing that night. With that, Ned has his proof, and advises his allies not to accept treatment from Pycelle, and that they would be wise to keep a maester in their employ. Soon enough, a young maester is added to his household, where he receives firm instructions that no one should be allowed to treat him, save for that man.
And tell no one. If they ask, you were summoned to tend the horses.
Meanwhile, Renly continues his recruitment campaign. While the nobles have all largely picked sides, he spreads his efforts for those in the city. There are many people he reaches out to, septons, merchants, and other wealthy citizens. More importantly, those who had lived through the Lannister sack of the city. There he finds many eager ears willing to listen as he works his magic and charms them. Laughter is shared, gifts are given, and the promises of investments are made for their support. Robert has always been most generous with the crown's coffers. Meanwhile, the Lannisters stingily demand that their kin pay off their debts to him. Those words seem to get their interest, and many offer what help they can, whether it be connections, finances, or manpower. In particular, they promise to keep a close watch on the city streets and inform them of Lannister sentiment. But after one visit to a sept, the septim in command bows his head to Renly,
You know, my lord, it is not just we learned men who are unsatisfied with Lannister rule. There are others, those among the commoners who might be willing to help, and who recall the sack just as well, if they are assisted as well.
Renly smiles and thanks him for this information, which he relays to Ned. The Hand immediately gets to work and starts using his influence to assist them. After the tourney, he has coins found to provide them with bread to keep the prices stable, and assigns more patrols in less safe areas to reduce crime. It also allows him to get less trustworthy officers further from the Red Keep, and yet there are things that even he cannot back, no matter what. And that comes to show when they learn Daenerys is pregnant. As Ned hears this,
The whore is pregnant.
You're speaking of murdering a child.
Hear it now. I want them dead. Mother and child both. I want them both dead.
You'll dishonor yourself forever if you do this.
Honor? I've got 7 kingdoms to rule. 1 king, 7 kingdoms. Fear and blood.
Then we're no better than the Mad King.
Careful, Ned. Careful now.
You want to assassinate a girl? Because the spider heard a rumor.
he is disgusted and shakes his head. When he speaks, it isn't just Robert he is referring to. It is his actions, his fears of what this is requiring of him, and because of that, he refuses to budge, even as the rest of the small council urges otherwise. When they vote, he throws his badge to the ground and shakes his head, announcing he will have no part in it. And yet, he cannot stay away for long, as Littlefinger entices him with a rumor, a brothel that Robert frequented and where Jon Arryn had gone before he died. As expected, this is too much for Ned to ignore, and he rides out. However, he comes with a sizable contingent of men, half a dozen Stark guards and a small gaggle of sellswords he had recruited. And there he meets with one of the women Robert had slept with and sired a bastard with. It was just like the other places he had visited, and yet he still could not put it together. Robert had multiple bastards in the city, that much was true, but he remained unable to fully grasp what this meant. Was Jon Arryn perhaps trying to raise one of these children as heir, or simply keeping tabs on them in case something were to happen? These thoughts continue to run through his mind as he makes his way out of the brothel. That is, until Sir Jaime arrives with a group of Lannister men larger than his own. Ned's troops perform a protective circle around him as they prepare to meet the Lannister men. The Kingslayer demands the release of Tyrion, but Ned warns him, if any harm comes to him, his brother is a dead man. That does not stop Jaime from trying to kill his men. In an instant, the two sides are upon each other, swords and daggers flashing. Jaime cuts through one of the sellswords with ease, while fighting breaks out around him. His men fight well, and several of the Lannister men go down. Thinking quickly, Ned decides to take a gamble and raises his head.
People of the city, your hand is in danger. The Kingslayer has gone mad.
This seems to get people's attention. While many choose to run and save themselves, others are spurred into action. A few small folk throw bits of food, and a nearby merchant orders his guards to help join the fight. Soon, others begin to shout curses and rush forward. There aren't many, but it adds to the chaos and allows the Stark men to regain the upper hand. Seeing the battle turn against them, Jaime tries to ride away, but Ned does not let him go. In this matter, he is an expert. This is a fight, and taking Jaime alive is the best way to win.
100 gold dragons to whomever brings him back alive. I want him to stand trial for what he did.
The sellswords all mount up and ride after him, but now they are joined by a swarm of people who gather whatever weapons they have and hurry after. The city soon becomes a street fight, as people are not keen on letting the Kingslayer go. Some recall how he and his family sacked their city, and that anger burns bright. When he runs, he is met with curses and jeers. His guards are pulled down one by one until he is alone. But he is far from helpless prey. Dozens of people fall before his sword or are trampled beneath the hooves of his horse. However, a man from the roof of one of the buildings picks up a tile and throws it at him. It strikes the Kingslayer on the shoulder and leaves him tumbling off his horse. Almost instantly, sellswords and small folk are upon him, kicking and cursing. One steps on his hand to prevent him from getting his sword, and soon he is dragged back to Ned, who gives him their reward.
So, I assume this means you're taking me back to the Red Keep, where you can hide under your sister's skirts. No. Take him to the city prison and keep him there.
Stark guards lead him away, but as he departs, a beggar approaches Ned and says he saw a young man leaving the brothel through a back door after he had arrived. The hand nods his head and discreetly slips a gold dragon into his fingers before leaving. When he returns to the Red Keep, Ned quickly gets to work trying to prepare for the backlash. He quickly sends word of a ship to be prepared to take his daughters and most of his household back north. Meanwhile, he ensures that the guards in the prison are men loyal to him, as well as reminding Commander Janos that he is aware of his corruption and would be wise not to make him revisit them. Word does eventually get out, and Cersei is furious. She demands the release of both of her brothers, with Tywin threatening war. However, the Gold Cloaks refuse to budge and claim they are under strict orders by Ned not to let him go. Robert is exhausted to hear this and tries to convince Ned to let him go.
All right, Ned. You've made your point. The Kingslayer will think twice before he tries a stunt like that again.
In the north, when a man tries something like this, he is sent to the wall. Have things changed so much in the south that that is no longer an issue?
My brother is no common criminal that you can dismiss like that. He is a Lannister and a knight of the Kingsguard.
Which is precisely why I cannot simply release him. Knights are meant to carry themselves with dignity and be above such things.
Lord Stark speaks truly. He is a member of the Kingsguard. His duty was to protect the king. How did he do that? By attacking the Hand. The man disgraced himself by behaving like this. I would personally strip him of his white cloak if he were released.
All right, that's enough out of both of you. Here are my orders. If you want to strip him of his white cloak, that's fine by me. But I intend to go hunting, and when I get back, I expect him to be out of prison, and whatever issues you have between you two, settle them. Understand?
And just as he says, Robert leaves later that day for the sanctuary of the Kingswood. The forest is thick and alive with the smells of pine and wet moss. Robert rides at the front of the hunting party, his boar spear slung lazily across his saddle. He laughs as a hawk wheels overhead, but the wineskin in his hand is heavy, and each swig sends more of the sweet red trickling into his beard. His squire, Lancel, dutifully refills it almost by the hour and seems unusually eager to serve. Sir Barristan Selmy rides behind him, watchful. He saw Lancel Lannister packing more than just gear. A dozen wineskins, most of them already half drunk before the first hound was loosed. And now he moves to refill it yet again. That is when Sir Barristan steps forward.
Enough. I'll have a drink of that myself. I have a thirst.
But this is the king's wine.
Your Grace, surely you can spare a skin or two for a thirsty old knight.
You heard him, boy. The Lord Commander has a thirst.
Lancel hesitates, but hands over the wineskin. Barristan takes a slow swallow and stops short. The wine is rich, dark, and far stronger than it ought to be. There was no attempt to water it down, not the type of wine to drink when a man wants his wits about him.
Your Grace, this is too strong for a hunting party. I don't think it's been watered down.
Let me drink, Selmy. It's just a pig.
Then drink something lighter, Your Grace. Just for today. And you, boy, care to explain why this wine is not watered down?
Fine. Water then. Gods, what have I become?
The next hour passes in better cheer. The king, more focused, actually rides with purpose. When the boar crashes from the underbrush in a blur of tusks and muscle, Robert meets it with steady hands and a sharp spear. The beast squeals and thrashes, but the king holds fast. When it finally lies dead, blood seeping into the roots, Robert lifts his head and roars in triumph.
There, I got the boar. Now give me some bloody wine.
Back in the Red Keep, Ned is not celebrating. His chambers are quiet, save for the scratch of quill on parchment. His first orders are to the ship captain he is commissioned to take his daughters home. Unsurprisingly, Sansa is heartbroken, but Ned convinces her and insists that there is more happening than she understands. He watches from a balcony as his daughters prepare to leave. Sansa weeps openly, protesting the suddenness of the journey. Arya is quiet, but her jaw is clenched. She doesn't seem too upset, asking only to keep Syrio Forel. But then he thinks back to something else he had heard Sansa say before, about Joffrey and Robert.
He's nothing like that drunk king. He's fair-haired and sweet and gallant.
Ned stiffens. Something shifts behind his eyes. All the pieces begin to align. Jon Arryn's obsession with lineage, the book of noble houses, the bastard children with dark hair, Gendry, Maya Stone. The seed is strong. He does not speak, but he watches his daughter vanish from view, the gates closing behind them. Then he turns and walks back inside, moving with a purpose sharpened by the final clue. He writes with care, the words meant for only one man, Stannis Baratheon. The letter is blunt and precise, as his father would have written. He urges Stannis to come to King's Landing with every man he can trust. Reinforcements will be needed. and soon. He seals it with wax and the direwolf sigil, then sends it by raven. By the hour of dusk, another raven takes flight. Elsewhere, the wind shifts. Across the city, Renly Baratheon convenes with several merchants, sellsword captains, minor knights, and even septons. The rumors of Jaime's imprisonment have stirred something long dormant. The king's brother begins gathering swords. The games have begun, and now it is time to discover its winner. The fire crackles in the hearth. Ned Stark studies a map of the Red Keep, fingers tracing through halls and passages. He's thinner than before, eyes darker, harder. Across from him, Renly paces.
Are you sure the gold cloaks will side with us? Not all, but enough. I've made it clear to General Slint that I am aware of his previous issues, and I provided his officers with a generous reward. Stark is bribing someone. Next you'll tell me the White Walkers are coming. A man shouldn't be bribed to do the right thing. But my man in Robert's hunting party said they nabbed a boar and are starting to make their way back. Then we'd go before dawn. Strike hard, strike clean.
The sky glows faintly purple. Stark and Baratheon men pour into the courtyard. The gates are already under their control, thanks to Ned's careful planning and quiet deals with the guards. They move with urgency, but not panic. The double doors crash open. Stark and Baratheon men flood into the hall. Cersei stands at the base of the Iron Throne, a hand on Joffrey's shoulder. Sir Boros and Sir Mirren step forward, but they're too slow. Renly's knights and northern swords close the distance fast. The Lannister guards form a defensive circle around these men.
What is the meaning of this? You swore to protect and serve the king.
That is what I'm doing. I am protecting the realm from your lies. I know the truth. You have lied to the king, kept the true parentage of Joffrey a secret. He is not of Robert's loins, but of your brother.
Lies. Madness. He speaks madness. He is mad. Stop them.
The nearest Stark guard who approaches is cut down before he can react. Joffrey shrieks, and fighting breaks out. Steel clashes echo through the halls. Sir Meryn Trant slashes through a guard, and his sworn brothers rush forward. All save for Sir Aerys, who was told by Sir Barristan of this ahead of time. He rushes to try and apprehend Joffrey, yet as he reaches out to grab his cloak, a sword flashes, and the knight screams as his arm is severed at the elbow. The hound grunts and roughly grabs the prince by his shoulder to lead him away. All across the Red Keep, fighting breaks out as guardsmen, knights, and men-at-arms from both sides join the fighting. While Renly and Ned do not personally command many men, their allies rush to support them. Meanwhile, Cersei and her forces were reinforced by sellswords hired by Littlefinger. The fighting spills into the streets, ambushing patrols. Fighting erupts in Flea Bottom, and parts of the city begin to burn. But the tide begins to turn when the Goldcloaks rally to restore order. Janos Slynt rides with 100 men to support the Starks, while the rest move through the streets, breaking up fights and arresting anyone suspected of aiding the Lannisters. The fiercest of this fighting happens when Preston Greenfield and 24 men try to storm the prison and free Sir Jaime. They find the Goldcloaks hostile, and the fight is fierce, but at last the knight is killed after someone drives his spear through his chest. Soon, Ned and Renly's banners rise over the Red Keep. Cersei is captured, but Joffrey remains locked up in the royal quarter, guarded by the Hound and a small group of loyalists. Sir Loras rides up and approaches the gate.
I've come to speak to the Hound. I was sent here to negotiate terms on behalf of Lord Renly. I offer a pardon to you and all of your men if you hand over the prince.
Bugger your terms. You don't frighten me. And if I don't frighten you, then let's settle this man to man.
I see a pardon isn't enough for you. What about revenge? We don't need you to sheathe your sword, just to turn it on someone more deserving. Your brother.
You want me to kill Gregor?
I would prefer you help me while I heroically kill him. But yes, that would be acceptable too. He burns the Riverlands. You know the truth about him better than anyone. He's a mad dog in need of being put down.
And if I do, I want free.
Freedom, gold, and a chance to kill the Lannisters.
A long silence.
Done. Just don't get in my way.
And with that, the Hound commands the gate be opened. Any men-at-arms who refuse are cut down, and by the time Renly appears, the lion banners have been torn down. The youngest Baratheon smiles as he approaches Ned Stark after the battle.
A fine victory, if I do say so myself. Now the only question remains, what do we tell Robert? In truth, the Lannisters have been plotting behind his back, and we need to put a stop to it. We present the evidence we've gathered, and let justice take its course. Yes, That is all well and good, but situations like this tend to raise questions, such as succession. Without Joffrey, Robert has no legitimate heir. But with your backing, you could convince him to name me heir.
And why would I do that? Stannis is the legal heir.
Stannis wasn't here when the fighting happened, and it wasn't him or his men who fought and died here. It was us.
And yet, he's here now.
As he says that, he points out to the Blackwater Bay, where a fleet appears on the horizon. Baratheon sails, black with a red heart.
I held the city. I bled for it. Robert should name me heir. Stannis inspires no one. He'll never hold the realm.
I've already sent word to Stannis. He is Robert's brother, and by law and blood, the rightful heir. He'll hold it with my support, and yours, if you're wise. We can only muster the city watch, but Stannis has worked with Jon Arryn to uncover the incest. If we do not support him, it would reflect badly on us. We will be no better than usurpers.
What do you propose?
Stannis will become heir if Robert deems it so. You will retain a seat on the small council, Storm's End under your rule, but I will ensure you are adequately rewarded for this. The Westerlands will be badly hurt by this war, and it might require someone to help rebuild it.
That was indeed a tempting prospect. The Westerlands were the wealthiest region, and if he could secure the Reach, it would leave him with half the Seven Kingdoms in his pocket. It wasn't kingship, but it was a crucial step.
I'll consider it, for the good of the realm.
When Stannis arrives, his men quickly move to secure the city. They help the Goldcloaks restore order. They are not just watchmen, but trained soldiers who make short work of any holdouts. Within hours, the city is firmly under Baratheon control. Stannis is surprised to see Renly with Ned, but he holds up the letter which the Hand had sent soon before.
I received your letter, so you know the truth.
We saw Jon Arryn's notes, and the Queen and the Kingslayer may soon confess, given enough time.
But Robert does not know.
Figures he'd be the last. All right then. I hope this means that we are clear about this. Given that his children are all illegitimate, this makes me Robert's legal heir.
Ned nods, and Renly grits his teeth, but accepts it. While King's Landing might be theirs, the Lannister army is still on the march. By now, they had defeated the Riverlands, and could march on King's Landing at any time. With Stannis' forces, they can at least hold the walls and rally more of the Crownlanders. But they will require Robert's support. When the king returns to the capital after his hunt, he finds it drastically different than when he left it. At first, he can hardly make sense of everything that has happened. All the claims they made were even more ridiculous than the last. A conspiracy in court, private armies, and incest. And yet, each one speaks of them so firmly, so concisely that it is clear that they either all planned their statements, or that they agree on the same thing. Robert can see no other way than this being the truth.
If it were anyone else, I would have considered it madness. And yet, all three of you seem so certain.
It is the truth, Robert. Jon Arryn himself wrote about it in his notes. He suspected something was off.
Well then, I suppose
there will be time to look into that. We must first deal with the Lannisters.
In that, all three agree, and they begin formulating a plan. By now, Tywin is marching his army across the Riverlands, which have been pounded into submission. He brings with him close to 30,000 swords, against their combined might of 10,000. It looks to be an uphill battle. But that is where Renly comes in. With Cersei and her children imprisoned, and the Red Keep under firm control, Ned, Renly, and Stannis gather in the Tower of the Hand. Outside the window, the city simmers. Riots are dying down. The Goldcloaks, now under loyal command, patrol the streets with more discipline than ever before. Yet they must prepare for Tywin, who now turns his full force to confront them. From the Green Fork, his army marches eastward, aiming to strike at King's Landing. Towns have been burned. Lords loyal to the Tullys are scattering. If Tywin reaches the Crownlands, he will have enough momentum to lay siege to King's Landing. The scattered river lords wage a desperate guerrilla war, but this does little to slow them, and many are just happy to see them go. Ned listens carefully to the scout's words, his face grim. Their own combined strength barely reaches 10,000, even with the allies Stannis and Robert raised from the Crownlanders. But Renly is already moving. He sends riders south and west, reaching out to the Lords of the Reach. Highgarden has no love for the Lannisters, but old blood feuds still linger from Robert's rebellion. With careful language and promises of glory, Renly convinces them to ride under his banner. In return, he promises to press for certain titles and tax reforms in King's Landing, and to push for Marjorie Tyrell as a marriage candidate. At the same time, Stannis begins preparing the city's defenses. He commands the engineers to reinforce the gates and outer walls, oversees the storage of food, and drills the garrison relentlessly. Robert visits the gold cloaks and recruits sellswords. He assures flagging lords of his strengths and promises them victory. Though he might not be much of a warrior now, he's still the same fiery man these lords knew in their youth, and they believe him. But this plan stuns them. They let Tywin come. As the Lannister host pushes eastward, burning through the riverlands with little resistance, the city of King's Landing braces. Stannis draws Tywin in close, retreating in stages, never breaking but always yielding ground. Skirmishes and ambushes slow the Lannister advance, but never halt it. He detaches portions of her army to ambush their outriders and pull men aside. Every move is calculated to stretch Tywin's supply lines and weaken his knights' morale, and to keep news from reaching the west. The banners of the Reach rise high. House Redwyne sails up the coast and lands men at Fair Island. House Florent and House Tarly march through the southern passes and descend from the Westerlands as part of the vanguard. Meanwhile, Mace personally commands the main host. He seizes Craighall and then marches towards Silverhill, while Lannisport is placed under siege. With Tywin having taken nearly all his strength east, the city defenses crumble. Randall Tarly rides at the head of the invasion, his banners flying beside the golden rows of House Tyrell. They happily help themselves to the gold and crops left over and haul them back south. Tywin's bannermen, now leaderless and confused, bend the knee or scatter into the hills. When word reaches Tywin, his army is already at the wall of King's Landing. He is preparing for the siege, setting ladders, constructing siege towers, and directing mining operations under the castle. He is surrounded by the finest knights in Westeros, yet more isolated than ever. His banners are far from home, his lands occupied. News comes that Lannisport is about to fall under Baratheon authority. And worse, Castle Rock is being sealed and left vulnerable. He prepares to march west, but that would mean abandoning the siege and risking being attacked on the way back. There are even reports that Robert has already called his Stormlanders to begin massing at Bronzegate. This will mean a fight regardless. If he can take the capital, it would mean an end to the war. But even that is far from guaranteed, and his army will doubtlessly take heavy losses. If he is to fight other battles, then he may get destroyed either way. The battle is simply too risky. So instead, a truce is offered. He may keep his titles. House Lannister will retain Castle Rock, but his children, Cersei and Jaime, are to be executed for their crimes, including the attempted coup of the secret of Joffrey's illegitimacy. In return, Renly will administer Lannisport as Warden of the West under the Baratheon crown. Tywin's influence, while preserved in name, will be stripped in practice. For the first time in memory, Tywin faces defeat he cannot avenge. The Riverlands are ruined, but their lords are reassembling and preparing to fight back, and leaving his path cut off. His bannermen weakened, and with the Stormlands massing in the south, any attempt to break the siege will cost him everything. Even victory would leave him too crippled to resist another force. He agrees. Cersei and Jaime are executed in the capital the next day. Both are beheaded. Ned ensures it is done quickly, without spectacle, to preserve Lannister honor. Joffrey, too young to stand trial, is sent to the Wall in exile. In the aftermath, Renly is named Lord of Lannisport and Warden of the West. More importantly, he pushes for Marjorie's marriage to Robert, which the king reluctantly agrees to, helping him down the line. Stannis is officially recognized as heir. Ned remains his hand, determined to rebuild the kingdom in Robert's name. The game has changed, but for once, the realm breathes easier. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.